Where's Dave?
Dave?
My moose head.
I set him free. If he really loves you, he'll come back.
The 90s gave us so many laughs, but what happened when the cameras stopped rolling? For many sitcom stars, the reality was no laughing matter. Behind the bright smiles were shocking stories of loss, intense battles, and sudden ends. You won't believe the story of one star whose life was taken over a simple, false claim. 1. Matthew Perry.
The last day of auditions is Thursday, okay? So I gotta get in there by Thursday, okay? Just remember Thursday. Thursday. Can you remember Thursday?
Yeah, so Tuesday?
For 10 years, Matthew Perry was Chandler Bing on Friends. He was the king of the sarcastic one-liner and part of the biggest show on earth. He had it all: fame, money, and talent. But behind the scenes, a dark shadow followed him for decades. You see, Matthew Perry was fighting a deep, personal battle. He had serious struggles with harmful substances and heavy drinking. This wasn't just a small problem. It was a fight for his life that started when he was very young. He later said he couldn't even remember filming 3 whole seasons of Friends because his issues were so bad. What many overlooked was how hard he fought. He spent millions of dollars, by his own count over $9 million, trying to get clean. He went to rehab centers more than 15 times and had dozens of operations because of the damage he'd done to his body. He even wrote a book about his journey, hoping to help others. Tragically, in 2023, Matthew Perry was found unresponsive in his hot tub. He was only 54 years old. The official report said his passing was related to the effects of a powerful substance he was using for treatment. His story is a heartbreaking reminder that the funniest person in the room is often fighting the hardest battle. Perry's story is heartbreaking, but the next story is not about a slow battle. It's about a sudden, violent act that nobody saw coming. 2. Phil Hartman.
Slavery was abolished in this country. No offense, Catherine.
Why would I be offended by slavery being abolished?
I don't know. I just like to cover my bases.
Phil Hartman was a comedy legend. Many people are crazy about his work on Saturday Night Live, where he did amazing impressions of Bill Clinton and other stars. In the 90s, he was the hilarious, arrogant news anchor Bill McNeil on the sitcom News Radio. He was called the glue by his castmates because he held the whole show together. But not all things are what they seem. Phil's home life was deeply troubled. His wife, Bryn, had her own struggles with personal demons and substances. She was also very jealous of his success and feared he would leave her. It was a toxic mix. One night in May 1998, the unthinkable happened. After a bad argument, Bryn's struggles got the best of her. She waited until Phil was asleep, and then, in a terrible act of violence, she ended his life with a firearm. After wandering the house for hours, she locked herself in the bedroom and took her own life as well. The news was a complete shock. Phil Hartman was only 49 years old. The world lost one of its funniest and most talented actors in an instant. The final season of News Radio had to be filmed without him, and his character's sudden passing was written into the show. The shock of Phil Hartman's end is still felt. But sometimes the tragedy isn't a violent act, but a quiet, unseen battle inside the body. 3. Michelle Thomas.
I saw somebody running around with one of your girlfriends, I'd run and tell you guys.
But I don't have a girlfriend. And I already know my girl's going out with 4 other guys anyway.
If you watched 90s TV, you definitely knew Michelle Thomas. She had a bright, shining smile that lit up the screen. She was well known for playing Justine, the girlfriend of Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show. But 90s kids remember her best as Myra Monkhouse, the super smart and lovable girlfriend of Steve Urkel on Family Matters. She was a rising star. She had talent, beauty, and a great career ahead of her. She even landed a role on the popular soap opera The Young and the Restless. But the thing nobody tells you is that she was hiding a serious secret. In 1997, Michelle was diagnosed with a very rare and aggressive form of cancer in her stomach. It's called a sarcoma. Like many, she wanted to keep her battle private, sharing it with only her closest family and friends. She was a fighter. She had procedures to try and stop the illness, and for a short time, it seemed to work. But the illness was relentless. It came back. In December 1998, just 2 days before Christmas, Michelle Thomas passed away. She was in New York, surrounded by her family. She was only 30 years old. Her Family Matters co-star, Jaleel White, was heartbroken, calling her a wonderful person who was taken far too soon. Losing someone so young to illness is devastating. The next actor on our list also left the world far too soon, but in a sudden, shocking accident. 4. Lamont Bentley. On the hit 90s sitcom, Moesha, Lamont Bentley played Hakeem Campbell. He was the goofy, always hungry friend who lived next door to Brandy's character. He was a fan favorite, always there with a funny line and a big heart. He was a key part of the show for all 6 seasons. After Moesha ended, Lamont kept working. He appeared in other shows and movies and was building a solid career. He was also a loving father to his 2 young children. He had a lot to look forward to. But his life was cut short in a terrible way. In January 2005, Lamont was driving alone in Southern California. To put it mildly, it was a horrible accident. He was driving on the freeway when his car went off the road at a high speed. It went down an embankment and flipped over. He was thrown from the car. First responders arrived, but it was too late. Lamont Bentley did not survive. The most shocking part? He was only 31 years old. His friends and family, including his Moesha co-star Brandy, were devastated. It was a sudden and tragic end for a young actor who was just hitting his stride. A sudden accident is a terrible shock, but the next story is about a tragedy that was self-inflicted, a sad end for a promising young star. 5. David Strickland. Suddenly, Susan was a big hit in the 90s, starring Brooke Shields. A key part of the cast was David Strickland. He played the nerdy, lovable music critic, Todd Stites. He was a rising star in comedy, and his character was a fan favorite. But behind his funny on-screen personality, David was in a lot of pain. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a condition that causes extreme mood swings. He also had a long-running battle with harmful substances. He had been trying to get clean and had several run-ins with the law. His friends, including Brooke Shields, tried hard to help him, but his demons were powerful. In March 1999, David Strickland, who was in Las Vegas for a trip, just disappeared. His friends were worried. A few hours later, his body was found in a cheap motel room. He had chosen to leave the world. He had ended his own life. The news was a shock to everyone. He was only 29 years old. The show, Suddenly Susan, was still in production. They had to write his passing into the show, and the season finale became a tribute to him, with the cast breaking character to share their real memories. David's story is a sad one, but he's not the only 90s star whose life took a dark turn after finding fame. The next actor is one of the most famous child stars ever. 6. Dustin Diamond.
My darling, be my partner. This could be you.
Saved by the Bell was a Saturday morning giant. And at the center of the Bayside High gang was Samuel Screech Powers, played by Dustin Diamond. He was the lovable, nerdy kid who was always part of some crazy plan. He was on the show from the very beginning all the way through its spin-offs. But the thing nobody tells you is that being Screech was a heavy burden. After the show ended, Dustin found it impossible to escape the character. He struggled to find work. His adult life became, to put it mildly, a total mess. He made some very bad choices to try and stay in the spotlight, including making an adult-themed video and writing a tell-all book that trashed his former castmates. He later said the book was full of lies, written by a ghostwriter. His life became a string of sad headlines, legal problems, and financial troubles. He even spent time in jail. Then, in early 2021, the story turned truly tragic. Dustin was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. It was extremely aggressive and had spread all over his body. Just 3 weeks after his diagnosis, Dustin Diamond passed away. He was only 44 years old. Screech's life was turbulent. The next actor's story is just as shocking, ending in a violent act that made no sense. 7. Merlin Santana.
Rule number 1. If your behind don't pick up those shoes, then my shoes are gonna pick up your behind. Yes, sir.
Merlin Santana was a familiar face for 90s kids. He played Stanley, a student on The Cosby Show. But his most famous role was as the smooth-talking, girl-crazy student Romeo Santana on The Steve Harvey Show. He was on the show for 6 years, growing up in front of the audience. He was a talented young man with a bright future. After the show ended in 2002, he was looking for his next big role. He was only 26 years old and had his whole life ahead of him. But his life was violently taken just a few months later. In November 2002, Merlin was in a car in Los Angeles with a friend. Another car pulled up, and a person inside started firing. Merlin was hit and did not survive. The story of why is what makes this so tragic. The police investigation found that a 15-year-old girl had falsely claimed that Merlin had done something terrible to her. This was a lie. But her older friends believed her and decided to get him. They attacked the car, ending his life over a complete falsehood. The people responsible were later caught and sent to prison, but it was too late for Merlin. An act of violence over a lie is a true tragedy. The next story is also about a That 70s Show star, one whose personal demons became very public. 8. Lisa Robin Kelly.
I am waiting for my jeans to come out of the dryer, and I want you to stay off my case. It'll only take me a minute.
I don't think Kelso's gonna last that long.
On That 70s Show, Lisa Robin Kelly played Lori Foreman. She was Eric's beautiful but mean older sister. She was a fan favorite, known for her sharp wit and for always messing with her little brother. She was a key part of the show's early success. But then, in the middle of the show, she just disappeared. Her character was written off, sent to beauty school. She came back briefly, but then she was gone for good. What many overlooked was that Lisa was in the middle of a terrible downward spiral. She was fighting a powerful battle with harmful substances and heavy drinking. Her life after the show was a series of very public, very sad legal troubles. Her mugshots were all over the internet, and she looked like a different person. It was clear she was very, very sick. She tried many times to get clean. In August 2013, she checked into a rehab facility, trying once again to fight her demons. But just a few days later, she lost her battle. She passed away in her sleep at the facility. She was only 43 years old. The official report said her passing was due to a fatal amount of multiple substances. Lori's story was a slow-motion tragedy. But the next story is a sudden, terrifying incident that left a young child alone. 9. Naya Rivera.
We'd like to send these back. But you ate all of it. Look, I'm pretty sure you have to do what we say. And this food was not satisfactory. There was a mouse in mine. So we'd like more, please.
Naya Rivera got her start as a child actor in the 90s on the sitcom The Royal Family. The show was a big deal, starring the legendary comedian Red Fox. But after Red Fox passed away suddenly, the show was canceled. Naya was just a little kid. She continued acting, but her huge break came later when she was cast as Santana Lopez on the hit show Glee. She became a massive star, beloved by millions for her sharp humor and incredible voice. Her life seemed perfect. She had a successful career and a young son, Josie, whom she adored. But in July 2020, a perfect summer day turned into a nightmare. Naya had rented a pontoon boat with her 4-year-old son on Lake Piru in California. Later that day, the boat was found drifting. Little Josie was on board, asleep and alone. He told police that he and his mommy had gone swimming, but she never came back. A massive search began. For 5 days, the world waited. Finally, her body was found in the lake. The police believe she was caught in a strong current. She used the last of her strength to push her son back onto the boat, saving his life. But she didn't have the strength to save herself. Naya Rivera was 33 years old. Naya's sacrifice was a final act of love. The next story is about another Moesha star, whose life was cut short by a long, painful illness. 10. Yvette Wilson. We already talked about the tragic loss of Lamont Bentley from Moesha. Sadly, he wasn't the only cast member to face a heartbreaking end. Yvette Wilson played Andell Wilkerson, the owner of the local hangout, The Den. She was a strong, funny, and motherly figure to Moesha and her friends. After Moesha and its spin-off The Parkers ended, Yvette continued to be a beloved comedian and actress. She was known for her warm personality and great comedic timing, but she was facing a very serious private battle. Yvette was diagnosed with a severe form of cancer. The illness was very aggressive. She also had major kidney problems and needed a transplant. She was in a tough fight for her life. To put it mildly, the medical bills were piling up. Her friends even started a fundraiser to help her pay for the expensive treatments. She fought as hard as she could for as long as she could. But in June 2012, Yvette Wilson passed away. Her cancer had returned. She was only 48 years old. It was another sad loss for the cast of a beloved 90s show. A long health battle is a terrible burden. The next star also faced a health crisis, but hers was a battle with her own mind and habits. 11. Kristen Johnston.
Oh my God! I'm gorgeous!
On Third Rock from the Sun, Kristen Johnston was a force of nature. She played Sally Solomon, the tough, confused alien lieutenant who was stuck in a human woman's body. She was brilliant, loud, and hilarious. She even won 2 Emmy Awards for the role. The show was a massive hit, and she was a huge star. But the thing nobody tells you is that she was hiding a massive secret. From a young age, Kristen had struggled with her mental health and had a problem with heavy drinking and substances. She later wrote in a book that during the show's run, her problems got completely out of control. She was drinking heavily every single day. She was taking handfuls of pills. It got so bad that she was hospitalized. She said she was so sick she could barely stand up. It's shocking to think that while she was making millions of people laugh every week, she was in a life or death struggle. Thankfully, her story has a better ending. She finally got the help she needed and got sober. But her health took another hit years later when she was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disorder. She continues to be open about her struggles, helping others feel less alone. Kristen's battle was private. The next star's struggles were also hidden, starting when she was just a child on one of the most wholesome shows ever. 12. Jodie Sweetin. We all know Full House. It was the ultimate 80s and 90s family sitcom, and Jodie Sweetin was Stephanie Tanner, the funny, sassy middle sister. We watched her grow up on screen, from a little kid saying, "How rude," to a young teenager. When the show ended in 1995, Jody was just 13 years old, and she was totally lost. She has been very open about what happened next. The quiet life of a normal high school student was a huge shock. She felt bored and anxious. This is when her problems started. She began drinking heavily when she was just 14 years old. She said she would get so drunk at parties that she would black out. But it didn't stop there. As she got into her 20s, her problems grew. She developed a very serious habit, getting involved with powerful and dangerous substances like meth. Her life spun out of control. She was hiding her problems from her family, even getting high at the premiere of one of the Olsen twins' movies. It took many years and several stays in rehab for her to finally get clean. Today, she is sober and even returned to her famous role in the reboot Fuller House. Jody found her way back. The next actor, also a child star, was not so lucky. His story is one of the saddest. 13. John Paul Steuer. Grace Under Fire was a huge 90s hit starring comedian Brett Butler. The show was about Grace, a single mom raising her 3 kids after leaving an abusive relationship. For the first 3 seasons, her son Quentin was played by a young actor named John Paul Steuer. He was a talented kid and was on a very successful show. But here's the kicker. He hated it. He later said that the environment on set was not good. The show's star, Brett Butler, was famously difficult and had her own very public battles with substances. John Paul just wanted to be a normal kid. So he quit. He left acting completely. He went on to have a totally different life. He moved to Portland, Oregon, and became a musician, playing in rock bands. He also opened a popular vegan restaurant. He seemed to have found his passion, but he was struggling with his mental health. In 2017, his band broke up and his restaurant closed. His friends said he was having a hard time. On January 1, 2018, John Paul Steuer took his own life. He was only 33 years old. It was a tragic end for someone who had tried so hard to escape the spotlight and find peace. Losing a battle with mental health is a tragedy. The next story is about an actress who also vanished from the spotlight, but for a very different and terrifying reason. 14. Farrah Fork.
I met the most fantastic woman. I had the most passionate night of my life. We made a connection like you would not believe.
Really? What was her name?
I don't know.
Fans of the 90s sitcom Wings will definitely remember Farrah Fork. She joined the show in its later seasons playing Alex Lambert, a helicopter pilot who dated both of the Hackett brothers. She was tough, funny, and beautiful. She also had a memorable role on Lois and Clark. She was a working actress with a steady career. But in the late 90s, she suddenly seemed to disappear from Hollywood. She stopped taking roles and stepped away from public life completely. Fans wondered what had happened to her. The truth is heartbreaking. Farrah had developed agoraphobia. This is a severe anxiety condition that makes people terrified of leaving their homes. The world outside becomes a scary, overwhelming place. For an actor, this is a career-ending condition. She just couldn't go to auditions or be on busy, crowded sets anymore. She withdrew from the world to raise her twin sons in private. She also faced another, more serious health battle. She was diagnosed with cancer. For years, she fought the illness quietly, away from the cameras. In February 2022, Farrah Fork passed away from complications from her cancer. She was only 54. An unseen illness is a terrible thing. The next actor's life was also marked by tragedy, not just his own, but that of someone close to him. 15. Robert Pastorelli.
I don't need to do more, 'cause you make me feel.
On Murphy Brown, a show that defined 90s sitcoms, Robert Pastorelli played Eldon Bernecki. He was Murphy's quirky, philosophical house painter who was always working on her townhouse. He was a fan favorite for 7 seasons, known for his wise and funny advice. He was a beloved character actor, but his real life was filled with darkness. In 1999, a terrible incident happened at his home. His 25-year-old girlfriend, Sharifa, was found after a fatal gunshot. At the time, her passing was ruled a self-inflicted tragedy. But the story didn't end there. Robert was deeply affected by the event. His friends said he was never the same. He also had his own long-standing battle with harmful substances. He left Murphy Brown, but struggled to keep his career on track. Then, in 2004, the case of his girlfriend's passing was reopened. Police were starting to look at him as a possible suspect. The pressure was mounting, but before anything could happen, Robert Pastorelli was found in his home. He had lost his battle with his demons. He passed away from a fatal amount of a powerful substance. He was only 49. Robert's story is a dark one. The next is about a comedy queen who was taken by a hidden illness right at the height of her comeback. 16. Madeline Kahn. Madeline Kahn was a true comedy genius. She was famous for her roles in movies like Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. She could make audiences cry with laughter with just a look. In the 90s, she had a role on the show Cosby. She played Pauline, a quirky friend of the family. Her performance was so good that she was nominated for an Emmy. It was a big comeback for her. She was loved by the cast and the audience. But during the show's run, she started to feel unwell. She was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. This is a very serious and often silent illness that is hard to detect early. But Madeline was a total professional. She didn't want anyone to know. She kept her diagnosis a secret from the public and even from most of her co-stars. She started undergoing very tough chemo treatments. She would be very sick, but she would still show up to set, ready to be funny. She was a fighter. She finally revealed her illness in 1999. She was hopeful she could beat it, but the illness was too aggressive. Just a month later, in December 1999, Madeline Kahn passed away. She was only 57 years old. Losing a legend is always hard. The next star is another 90s icon, a TV dad who also faced health battles that cut his life short. 17. James Avery.
There'll be no beepers worn in this house.
Oh, yo, what's up, Uncle Phil? My mom let me wear it in Philly.
That's because she's your mother and she loves you. I'm your uncle. I just try not to hurt you.
No 90s TV dad is more iconic than Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Played by James Avery, he was the heart of the show. He was tough and strict, but also incredibly loving and warm. The episode where he hugs Will after Will's dad leaves is one of the most powerful moments in sitcom history. James Avery was a classically trained actor with a deep, booming voice that everyone recognized. After Fresh Prince ended, he was constantly working, doing voice acting, and appearing in many shows. But he was dealing with serious health problems. He had severe heart issues and diabetes. His health was getting worse over the years. In 2013, he underwent a very complicated open-heart surgery. It was a risky procedure. The surgery was meant to help him. But just a few weeks later, on New Year's Eve 2013, he passed away from complications. He was 68 years old. The entire Fresh Prince cast was devastated. Will Smith called him a treasure and said that every young man needs an Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil was a father figure to millions. The next actor was a child star from a different era, but his 90s were defined by a public and terrifying fall from grace. 18. Todd Bridges.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Talking to us?
Of course.
How about that, Willis? Downtown 2 minutes and already we're gentlemen.
Most people know Todd Bridges as Willis Jackson. He was the co-star of the massively popular 70s and 80s show Different Strokes. Alongside Gary Coleman and Dana Plato, he was one of the biggest child stars on the entire planet. The show was a cultural phenomenon. It tackled serious subjects, and its catchphrases were known by everyone. Todd Bridges, as the older brother Willis, was the cool, level-headed one. He grew up in front of millions of people. The world watched him go from a young boy to a teenager. This level of fame is difficult to comprehend. He was on lunchboxes. He was in teen magazines. He was a household name. But the pressure of that fame was immense. And when the show finally ended in 1986, his life went completely off the rails. The phone stopped ringing. The structured life of a TV set disappeared. For Todd Bridges, the late 80s and early 90s became an absolute nightmare. He fell into a deep and life-threatening problem with powerful illegal substances. This wasn't just casual experimentation. It was a crippling, all-consuming addiction. He later admitted he was spending thousands of dollars a day to feed his habit. The vast fortune he had earned as a child star completely evaporated. It was all gone. He lost his homes, his cars, and his career. He ended up in very dangerous situations, associating with criminals in the darkest parts of Los Angeles. To put it mildly, he hit rock bottom, and that bottom was terrifying. In 1989, the world was stunned by the headlines. Todd Bridges, the beloved Willis Jackson, was arrested. The charge wasn't minor. He was put on trial for the attempted taking of another person's life. The story was grim. He was accused of confronting a substance dealer in a known drug house. During the confrontation, a weapon was discharged and the dealer was shot multiple times. Bridges was so deep in his addiction that he claimed he had blacked out. He had no memory of the incident at all. The trial was a media circus. The man everyone had welcomed into their homes was now sitting in a courtroom, his life hanging in the balance. Prosecutors painted him as a violent, out-of-control addict. He was facing a long time in prison. It was a shocking and tragic fall for a beloved TV star. His defense, led by the famous Johnny Cochran, argued that Bridges was a victim of his addiction and the shady world he had fallen into. He fought the charges. After a tense trial, the jury eventually found him not guilty of the most serious accusations. But he was not free. He still had to serve time for other related charges. The 90s for him were a blur of legal battles, rehab stints, and desperate attempts to get clean. He would get sober only to relapse. It was a painful, repeating cycle. He managed to find small roles, like a memorable guest appearance on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But he was a shadow of his former self. The bright, smiling star was gone, replaced by a man haunted by his demons. Thankfully, Todd was eventually able to turn his life around. He found sobriety in 1993 and has been clean for decades. He wrote a book about his harrowing experience and now works to help others avoid the same path. He survived. But his 90s were a true tragedy, a textbook case of the child star curse. Todd managed to find a new path. The next actress also had a hit 90s show, but her life was cut short by a sudden, secret illness. 19. Kirstie Alley.
Where's Dave?
Dave,
My moosehead.
I set him free. If he really loves you, he'll come back.
Kirstie Alley was a huge star. She was an absolute force of nature. She first burst onto the scene in the late 80s, taking on the impossible task of replacing Shelley Long on the hit show Cheers. Against all odds, she succeeded. Her role as the neurotic, ambitious Rebecca Howe was a smash. It won her both an Emmy and a Golden Globe. She was lightning in a bottle. When Cheers ended, her star power only grew. In the 90s, she got her own hit sitcom called Veronica's Closet. She played a woman who owned a lingerie company. The show was given the most valuable time slot in all of television. Thursday night on NBC, right after Seinfeld. It was an instant hit, cementing Kirstie as one of the undeniable queens of 90s TV. But her fame wasn't just about her roles. It was about her. Kirstie Alley was famously unfiltered. She was loud, she had a distinctive husky voice, and she had a razor-sharp humor. She was also incredibly open about her life, especially her public struggles with her weight. She became a spokesperson for Jenny Craig and later Weight Watchers, and audiences loved her candor. She was also a prominent and vocal member of the Church of Scientology, which often put her in the headlines. Whether people loved her or were baffled by her, nobody could ignore her. She was always in the headlines for one reason or another. After Veronica's Closet ended in 2000, she never stopped working. She had other shows, like Fat Actress. She was a popular contestant on Dancing with the Stars. She appeared in reality TV shows like Celebrity Big Brother. She was always active, always busy, and always stirring up conversation on social media. She seemed full of life and boundless energy. She looked vibrant and unstoppable. That's why the news in late 2022 was such a complete shock to the world. It came out of absolutely nowhere. There had been no tabloid rumors about her being sick. There were no pictures of her looking frail. There was just silence. And then, suddenly, she was gone. On December 5, 2022, her children released a statement. It said that their incredible, fierce, and loving mother had passed away. The thing nobody tells you is that she had been in a private battle with a devastating illness. She had only recently been diagnosed with colon cancer. No one in the public knew she was sick. Kirstie Alley, a woman who had lived so much of her life in the full glare of the spotlight, chose to fight her final battle away from the cameras. She was being treated at the Moffitt Cancer Center in Florida, surrounded only by her closest family. The disease was aggressive and had been discovered too late. She fought her battle away from the spotlight. She was 71 years old.